onto his house. It increased by $28,850. Cammy Fraunfelter had a sale for $85,000. That's why that one went up so much. Mark Huber paid $90,000 for his. He's the one with the yellow door on Main Street. Corey Jensen, just on the block from us, sold for $88,000, and it had been valued at like $32,000. Kirk Ides bought Jordan Pepley's house for $90,000. Zachary LaPlante bought Lockin's house for $115,000. Cindy Melby, the reason she's on there is she asked me to combine lots for her. And so because we combined the two parcels together, it made it over 3,010%, but she already knows about it and it was her request. So I did actually not send her out a notice. Lynette Vetter bought Deborah Furman's old house for $55,000, and Andrew Zook, bought his for $87,500. I will state that with Baltrush's old house, when we did the reassessment back a few years ago, there was some obsolescence that was put on that should not have been there from prior years when we had not put map area schedules and pricing schedules on yet. So it should have been higher than what it was already, but we'll get to that, okay? So on the sales ratio report, when I look at Fessenden, I look at 2 years in my camera system, just so that we have enough sales to identify whether we need an increase to stay the same or a decrease. For the 2024 values, where we were at a 92% by adjusting just the sales over the last 2 years, and I didn't even do anything on the 2024 sales because they had already been adjusted last year. By adjusting those 2024 sales, we are at 96%. Keep in mind that we assessed from February 1 to February 1. So these would be the sales that transpired prior to February 1, 2025. By doing these changes for the 2024, or for the 2024 and 5/6 sales, including the 2023 sales, our sales ratio is at a 96%. I did not do much changes overall in the city due to the fact that we were already within the 90 to 100% tolerance that is required by state Board of Equalization. The 2024 taxable value for Fessenden City was $1,305,010, and in 2025 the taxable value is $1,316,361. So it changed by an increase of 0.86% from last year, which is $11,000. So very minimal changes, other than the ones that received a notice of increase. And all of those are either due to sale or new building. And I know Cindy will likely get a notice of increase next year because she's planning on adding a garage. She told me that part, so. Are there any questions? Okay, this one.
No. I guess I was kind of wondering if you guys could split mine over a few years, or is that something that could be possible? For the increase?
Which one is yours? I'm sorry.
Vulture.
So on the value change report, it would be the very last listing.
So you got it valued at 77. So it's already 10 grand less than what you paid for it.
No, it's at 87.1, because you have to add those two columns. The land is at 10,130.
Oh, okay.
And the structure's at 76,970. Now keep in mind that there's some outliers as well, because Some of them that sold for $90,000 that are early 1900s that really should not have sold for $90,000. I couldn't get near that dollar amount, but they did still receive a substantial increase. Now, likewise, there are some that paid way more than what I could get it down, or paid way less than what I could get it down to. So keep in mind that every year there's going to be outliers there. Generally speaking, you're looking at anywhere from an 88% to 110% for tolerance. As long as the median ratio is between 90 and 100%, that's what the state looks at, not the individual properties.
So just for instance, when I bought my house, bought it in 2013, when I bought it, the house was on the tax rolls for 20,000. It went from 20,000 to 64,000 in 1 year. And now it's up to 90.
Part of the problem with that is, you know, this particular house, it's been there for a long time. The previous owner, he lived there for many, many years, and, you know, it gets set up as a certain, taxable value per se. And, if nothing ever happens, if it never sells, or nothing gets added on to, or she has no reason to, well, let's go look at it to see what improvements are made, it stays where it's at. Now,
And-
over time, those annual increases or the small stuff that, sometimes that affects it a little bit, but, you know, if nothing happens, it's just like Brian's situation. It's been living in for 30 years, 40 years, and now it finally sold. Obviously, if you look back 30 years ago, the values of property were all really low. And in the last 5 years, and not so much just these last couple of years, in the last 5 years, values have been high, you know.
To go off of what you said, the valuations of what I have to do have to be within a certain range of what it sells for. So, essentially what drives our market is what somebody's willing to pay for a property, and that's not just on you, it's on all of the sales that transpire within that year or two. And so that identifies whether we need to increase everybody. So let's say that we had 15 sales in 1 year that was at 88%, that means that we would need to increase the city as a whole by at least 6% to stay within tolerance. Otherwise, the state will come in and say, well, you're gonna increase 6% anyway. And that, we wouldn't have a choice that way. At least this way, we're identifying which ones need to be increased and which ones don't. Now, the other thing is that for a number of years prior, there had been no reassessing, so to speak. So we received, or we bought what's called a computer-aided mass appraisal system, a CAMA system. And so what we do is we plug in all of the information as far as sales go. Square footage of structures, year builds, conditions, and number of bathrooms. Plumbing is increase, is by $2,400 per bathroom, type of thing. And so all of this is the information that we have to plug into the CAM system. Now, in this packet, you should have a copy of your property card. What happened a number of years ago, before we even put Fessenden on that system, is I did do some reassessing, just to kind of play with the program and kind of unlearn it. And so there was some obsolescence that was put on several of the properties that should never have been there. And when I reduced that, I think yours was about 15 or 20%. So when I took that off, because it never should have been there in the first place, that raised the price substantially. So right now, it's pretty much right at what you paid for it.
Cause I saw here it says 57%, and the letter I got in the mail said 73 something percent.
So the 57 means that it's 57%, what I had it valued at was 57% of what you paid for it. Not that it would increase 57, it's just that it's up that much.
Okay.
Andrew, which house is it that you purchased?
Lynn and Irma Goldtruth.
It's the blue
The
house
alley
behind
behind
us.
Davis's, the
Oh.
White House.
Oh, okay, I know which one, okay, good.
And there is no basement on that, so that does deduct from part of the value. So, like if you, let's say in 10 years you decide to sell it and you get 90 or 95,000 for it, because we all know prices keep going up right now. It's going to identify that well, you didn't get as much because there's no basement. I will guarantee you if there was a basement, it'd be another 25,000 more.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't know, I was just told it should never increase that much in a year,
who told you that?
Andy once.
I'll have to talk with Andy. No. But no, it can in 1 year, but from here on out, over the last 5 years, Fessenden City has seen anything from 15% to 25% increase citywide. And that was just to get values current to what the
Okay.
sales ratio was doing. So now, after this year, you might see a little fluctuation, 2 to 5% up or down, depending on the market, but after this year, you shouldn't see that.
That must be what he was going.
That's
off of.
probably, yeah.
Yeah.
It can go up in 1 year due to a sales price, but not necessarily every year is that going to increase or decrease that much.
Okay,
But it can decrease depending on what the sales do. So let's say in 2025, sales start, or properties start selling for 15% less than what we have them valued at, then you're gonna see a decrease in your valuations as well.
The real problem is for 30 years, nothing was updated throughout the 90s and early 2000s, and then when stuff started selling 10 or 15 years ago, things just went crazy and
Right, and
yeah.
got out
Well,
of hand.
I was
there
kind
was-
of told
yeah.
that house was put there, that there was a trailer house there and they tore it down and then they built this one in late 90s, early 2000s. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I was told.
Modular. That's a double wide modular. If I recall correctly, that's what.
They said that's what used to be there and then he tore it down and built this.
Yeah, there used to be a single wide there,
Okay,
and they replaced it with a double wide, basically.
well, and there's a
Okay.
difference between a double wide mobile home and a double wide modular. Because a modular means that they take the trailer with them when they set it down versus a mobile home, they leave
yeah.
everything there, including the tires. So the best way to know if it's one or the other would be to look in your crawl space.
Modular comes in two halves, like Leon Clocky's comes in two halves and it gets
Yeah.
put together.
So.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if I have a crawl space, but
Well, and
I
it
have
goes,
one in the garage, but I don't know if it goes all the way through.
right, and sometimes it can be just on a slab, and that's very common as well.
Tied down to the slab.
Right,
Well, I think, wasn't it a year ago, like, we had 2 sheets of this, everybody had an increase almost, right? I wanna say. There were a lot,
Couple of years,
a lot more increases, so this is minimal on basically the houses that sold. And I was gonna say too, over the last 30 years, there's been houses that have sold, obviously. The market hasn't been as high, and so those properties that got sold, they saw increases, or based on the sales information. But the overall assessment, what she does, wasn't done on like all the properties, I mean, it was.
right, so they had sales, but they didn't adjust the light properties at the same time as the
Right,
sales transpired. And, even, I started 17 years ago, and when I first started, you didn't see more than a couple of sales per year. And now in 2 years, we're having just about 20. So, I mean, there's some actual data to work with instead of, well, here's a guess, which was 20 years ago or so.
Yeah, this is something completely new to me, first time I ever bought a house, and so.
So you're asking for some kind of relief from paying the full amount, is that what your question was originally?
I was gonna see if you guys could string it out over a couple of years, or if that would work or not.
One thing I want to tell you is in January of next year, you could call the state and find out for this year. But for next year in January, definitely go on to the state website because they do have what's called a PRC, a primary residence credit. And, last year was $500, this year it could be between 500 and 1450, I don't know. But sounds like they're gonna keep getting that credit, so make sure that you go online and apply for that as well.
That's,
Or did you,
that's a paper that I got with, when I had
yep,
closing.
did you go
and
online and do that?
I did, and it said it's not available anymore.
Okay, so that must mean that it has already been applied for, so it'll be on your property when you get the statement in December.
Okay.
That PRC is only available to apply for from January 1 to March 31st.
Did you do it before then, Andrew?
Yep,
Okay, good.
I did it in February sometime.
But did sellers do it before?
And it will
I
stay
don't
on
know.
that property even if it's a new
It's
person.
already-
The prior owners, if they go and buy a new house somewhere else, can get that PRC transferred to the new property. But I know both Trishas are in a nursing home, so it's likely they won't do anything with it, so it'll be on that.
It'll be on that house.
Yeah.
Sure.
No, they gave me a paper like that when I had closing and I went and looked and,
Yeah, and if it says it has already been, you can call this number, it means that somebody has already applied previously.
okay.
But not the official. Well, is that something that the council has agreed to do in the past? To
What's that?
extend, payments on taxes like that?
I don't recall, I mean, it's either an exemption type of a thing, or else the percentage gets negotiated, we've never extended anything, it's just whether we wanna exempt somebody or we want to reduce the increase, that would be the two things to consider.
Well, I think what he's asking for is to do like, his increase is 37,000, I think what he's asking is to do half this year and half next year type of thing, so that he does get his
Maybe
market
something
value
like
just
that.
over 2 years.
That's up to you, you're the one that
Nope,
decides.
that's
it.
up to you as the board, cause I've already sent him a notice and after that it's out of my hands.
I'm sure we could look at it from a standpoint, do we wanna split this out, so the first half of that increase goes on to 25 here, and then the rest of it'll go on in 26, and then, it just, eventually it'll get to that number.
What I will state
an extra
is that
year.
this one will be on the 2025 sales ratio. So, which will be applied to the states in 2026. So it will affect the sales ratio in the next year. Just to, just to let all of the information's out there.
So that could make it more or less, then.
Well, and the thing is that this is just one of many sales that will transpire within the 2025 year. So, if you up him half now or all of it now, it's going to help the sales ratio, so to speak, because you're looking for that median ratio of a 90 to 100. So by increasing him to what it was, or what I had sent him a notice for, you're at 99.9%. Whereas if you go up 15, you're probably gonna be at that 89%, give or take.
But you have to be at 90, don't you?
Well, here's the thing is that it would go into the 2025 sales ratio that we report to state in 26. So if you did it half now, hypothetically, what would happen is you would send the state at an 88 or an 89% ratio, and then you would use that rest of the 15,000 to stay within tolerance the following year.
So realistically, the difference between what it would be at the 87 versus the whatever, what is it, $150 for the year,
Not
maybe?
even-
That's
So-
really all the difference,
Hold
is
on.
about
Let me
$150 really,
grab my
for the whole year.
calculator.
I mean, it doesn't,
So 3720 divided by 2 divided by 109. That's not right. So 16. So 1665 a year. And I know you guys are at like 321 mils or something like that. So you're. Looking at about $250
Is what it's gonna go up.
on 15,000. So it'd be 500 on 30, give or take. You know, it's kind of playing with numbers that I'm not entirely sure about, like your mill levy. And I don't know what the 25 mill levy will even do, so it's not till budget in July. And strictly for you, not the board, but for you, you know, even if it did go up that, if they increase that to 1450, you know, you'd be getting more off than what it would go up, essentially. So,
Yeah, if that law passes to 1450, you won't have any city tax, there'll still be the specials.
but it's all
But not
up in the
the-
air, who knows what'll happen, and you can't base your value on that either.
My only concern would be if we do this, not saying we should or shouldn't, but if we do it, then that's going to open the door for, in the future, everybody is gonna want this, and it's gonna complicate matters for her or whoever does the tax or whatever. They're gonna have to keep track, okay, now they decided to only go up this much, then it's gotta go up the rest, and it seems like it could
Well, if
be.
you only go up a percentage, this is just gonna show up on this report next year again, and it'll have another high increase most likely, because it's not up to that
Yeah.
point, you know. But yeah, I don't recall in my years on the council that we've done any splitting up stuff. Isn't it, people can go into the county and ask for an exemption, or what am I thinking? There's such a thing? Can you go into the county and ask for an exemption type of thing?
There's only-
Different,
There's no exemptions, there's just a couple of credits, one would be the homestead credit, one would be the veterans credit, and that PRC that
Okay,
gets.
maybe it's the veterans, okay. Thought there was something, but-
We have the new business credit. But,
There is a single family residence exemption, but I don't know if Fessenden agreed to allow that or not, but that's only if you're building a brand new house.
Haven't been any of them for about 20 years.
Leon Coffey's about it.
Oh, that's right, I was thinking Mark Hubbles was the last one before that.
And he's right out of town,
He's not even in.
Yeah.
yeah, Zach's over there too, out of town.
So the downside we're looking at is.
So without splitting it, what would I have to come up with at the end of the year?
Right, for tax purposes, it would be right around $1,300. Again, if you have that, you personally, not the board, you personally, if you have that credit, it would be just your specials essentially. Unless there's a big increase in the budget, which would increase your mill rate.
But it was valued at 50, so, but the 1,300 would have been what, 800?
Somewhere in there.
Yeah, so
I
you
don't
would have had
know.
$800 in taxes no matter what, and it's gonna go up to 1,300.
Okay.
So, yeah, if you take 250 off, yeah, so even if we do this, it's gonna be 1,150 roughly,
Yeah, then.
1,100, that you're gonna be responsible for no matter what, no matter
Yeah,
what we
that
do, so.
doesn't really make sense to split it up then. So,
Well, these adjustments get made, I can't imagine unless property, unless sales continue to be high, that we're gonna see more adjustments. I mean, most likely, we're gonna level out here at some point in time.
Yep.
Just
Well, and it's
depends.
just like this year, we didn't do any adjusting other than new building and
Yeah, right.
sales, so you're gonna sit right now at about a 96%.
Right.
I mean, I have no idea what property taxes and stuff we're doing, and
Right.
no idea what I'm doing, and I had asked Danny once about it, and he said I should come in and talk to you guys about it.
I would say, some of these people have lived here longer than I have, but I've never really thought the taxes in Fessenden are overly high, especially when you compare it to other communities
Yeah.
in Wells, Harvey or the bigger towns or whatnot, you're gonna pay way more. So,
Well, are you okay with that, Andrew?
Yeah.
Just leave it as is then?
Yeah.
Okay,
Might as well.
alright.
we need a motion to approve this.
Was there anyone else that had any
Are you here for
questions?
this, Zach, or?
No,
Oh,
Let's
Okay, my
lady in the back. No one
I'm
else
just-
have any questions
Is that-
pertaining to ask Jana or the council regarding taxes? Now, do a motion, I guess.
I make a motion to accept Jana's report.
second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the report and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion be, oops, sorry.
Go ahead. Before you end the meeting, I do have a couple of things to just give to you guys to have here at City Hall.
Okay, motion carried on that.
So, we do have some brochures for the homestead credit, property tax refund, and disabled veterans credits. I get phone calls a lot, and they don't always know where to go for an application. Right now, we are accepting 2025 applications for homestead credits. They have to use their 2024 income and medical expenses for 2025. It is for individuals who are 65 years of age or older or disabled with a physician certificate. And they, at this point, can go back to the 2023 year, as long as they file for an abatement form, which I've included. They would need the 2023 and 2024 abatements to be filled out and into my office prior to November 1st of this year to be eligible. So I'll just give these, or put these in on the desk here, and you guys can keep them.
Thanks.
So,
Thanks, Janet.
yep. Anything else? Otherwise, I'm golden.
I
There
don't
you
think
go,
so.
Paula.
I think we're good.
Another duty.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming in, Jana, and taking the time.
Yeah, I just trying to understand.
And Andrew, thank you, yeah, we're all still trying to understand.
See ya.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
I'll get this to you. This is the reasons as to why they would. And then some taxes value. Yep.
Alright. Okay, so
Probably good possibility.
without further ado, let's call our meeting to order. And if everyone would join me with the pledge of allegiance.
Let's go to the pledge first.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. Reading of the minutes.
No, we have to approve the agenda.
Agenda, sorry, yes.
Oh, is it?
Thank you.
Thank you. Got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, this agenda was added to at least 3 times just today. So,
Really anything to add, is there?
Want to remove the black mountain or just?
no, I'm gonna,
Just quickly on that, okay.
yeah, no, there can't possibly be anything possibly left to add to this.
Well, then I won't bring that up.
Hey,
You want-
Jeff?
Want a motion to approve the agenda then?
So moved.
We have a second?
Okay, who seconded, Ron or Carl? Okay.
We have a motion to approve the agenda and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Agenda approved. Okay, next we're going to move on to reading and approval of the minutes.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as written.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes and a second. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
We don't have anything on the lease with Dale for the city property out there for anything?
Nothing that I've heard.
Okay, next on our agenda is review and approval of the bills.
$2,500 for QuickBooks for another year?
QuickBooks is like a vampire sucking us dry. And the last thing that they charged a huge amount for was that we didn't have the right program, we didn't have the newest program. So then we got charged for that, then we got charged for their payroll improvements, and we got charged for what they call like the lease agreement, which means you can go in and look at your stuff. If you quit QuickBooks, they will refund what you don't use. And they also will allow you for 1 year to go into QuickBooks to see all of your transactions. But, and, okay, so on the pro side, having a new, and you had to have the program because otherwise it wouldn't download tax tables. And so I said, well, why would we even buy this from you if it didn't include tax tables under the payroll parts? And Jogdosh said, because most companies of a certain size have a payroll company, they don't even do their own payroll. They just, send their information, a payroll company does it for them. QuickBooks is not hanging as much, it's not hanging anymore, we now have a dedicated person to talk to for help, which is an improvement. But when they announced, there were 4 things which I should have brought to show you, 4 things that are really good in QuickBooks now, none of them had anything to do with the city, nothing. It's just like, oh, you can see what warehouse your inventory is in. So we're paying for stuff, it's like you're paying for rooms in your house you don't use, which I am doing.
What was the
It's not-
yearly?
What was what?
How much was the yearly user fee?
That was the last time we were charged, that was charged on the visa,
Right,
so it was like 20,
well, the total bill was 2,300,
Yeah.
I can't imagine the whole user fee was 20.
well, no, the payroll is that, and then the user fee was broken down to that. I think the user fee was like, it might have been like, it went up about $700 from the year before. So it's just, but this new thing with this program, and then the other problem was because of our credit card situation, which is shared by Public Works and the auditor, I had to, I got a call from First International Bank, like, what is this? And it's like, you know, this is a transaction, cause they had to raise it, you know, so that both Jeff and I
Above
share
the-
the chunk.
Above the limit,
Yeah, so we had to do that, and, so when I went to League of Cities, you know, it's like, I can't help you, we don't use QuickBooks, and then one person said they had just given up, and now they just keep track of their stuff on Excel spreadsheets. And I said, well, what do you do about payroll? And she said, we don't know yet. So it's just a very bad thing.
On the, second page, question for, the rental for use of personal vehicle, $50 for Jeff Rory.
The city pickup was in the shop for 2 days, and I used my own pickup.
How did you come up with your 50? Are you doing mileage or
Just a straight fee. That's what if you rented a car someplace, that's what you pay for a car rental.
Because I'm not sure if we should just go along with the state 67 cents a mile or not on that. Okay, thank you.
You probably couldn't have put 20 miles on it,
Yeah,
so.
that's the thing too, yeah. That's your pickup repairs right above that, the $955, correct?
Well, there's more repairs than what's on here. There's about another $1,900 worth of repairs.
Ouch.
What was wrong?
The front axles, the boots and stuff were shot, and the transmission fluid is not red anymore. So they dumped and changed all that stuff.
You're gonna have to slow down to below 80 in town, Jeff.
It's a pickup that's a 2017 with 105,000 miles on just about. That's the only thing we've done to that pickup since we've had it.
Well, that's good then.
I don't see there's any reason we can't give them that, is there?
No, I was just questioning how he came up with the number. No, not that I know of. It's up to the council, of course, but,
I move and pay the bills.
Well, for future, that was just for like a day. Yeah, I mean, for future reference, I think, you know, so much a day, whatever, that's what it is, it's fine, I'm all right with it.
That's the first time in the 10 years that I've used my own pickup, so it's
Right.
not bad.
No,
but I guess we should have a set amount in case something should come up in the future.
What's the state mileage rate?
67 cents a mile.
67.
Just went up to 70.
Oh, did it? Oh, whoop.
When did it go up, Ann, do you know?
I don't know, I just had an email a month or so ago.
If he was out driving, I'd say that'd be a more legitimate figure if he was putting a couple hundred miles a day, but for something driving around town, I think a daily rate is,
Way to go, yeah.
unless he had to go to, if he had to go to Carrington or Harvey or something, then you would obviously probably wanna give him that mileage rate if it was a trip.
Because it would maybe, if I was lucky, put 5 or 6 miles on.
Okay, do you wanna set a daily rate on that, or just wanna go ahead and, leave that and just keep that in mind and move that we approve?
that should be a separate thing,
Yeah. Okay.
if we're gonna do that, we should, you know.
Let's
whether
put
approve-
that, maybe put that on the agenda next month or something and
Yeah.
discuss a little bit about what we do. My thought would be is, if it was for a 1 day thing, the 50 is fine. If it was gonna be for like a week, like when I rent equipment, your daily rate is like ×3 for a week, and then for a month, it's like ×3 again, so I think something legitimate would be like, if it was for a week, 150, if it was for a month, you know, like 450 or something,
Yeah,
you know? But that we can talk about that later, that would be where I would be leaning towards.
Yeah,
Alright, shall we,
should be separate from this. Brian moved,
yeah,
And we need a
Um,
second.
I'll second to
okay.
pay the bills.
We have, we move to pay the bills in a second, all in favor say aye.
I'll do that.
Oh, it's you, yeah.
Let's see.
Excuse me. Lenny.
Jeff,
Yes,
Brian,
Yes.
Vince,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
Carl.
Yes.
Are approved. Okay, we're gonna review the time cards.
This month must have been pretty light, you didn't even get to the 20 hours a week on average.
We've had a lot of problems with my mom getting settled in as a widow. She insisted on going home to the farm, which is like so isolated, it makes Wellsburg look like New York City. We begged her, do not go, but she insisted on going, so it's just been a lot of trips to calm her down and, yeah.
I would move that we approve the time card.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Next thing on our agenda is finance.
Yeah, Paula's got the balance sheet, the profit loss in there for March. I think all these numbers are up to date, correct?
They should be ready today.
So, you can see what revenues came in. Sales tax down a little bit from the previous month. Still a pretty good number.
So when do the CDs mature? Do we need to talk about what are the rates currently? Are they about the same as they were a year ago?
Yeah, they were locked in at 13 months. Right? 13 months at 467 something. I can't remember. I would say they're good till, maybe this summer, I thought. We approved them at that one meeting, but then it was like a month or so before we got them done, or before she got them done.
We started in March talking about it, didn't we?
Well, you know, if we hadn't had the lagoon project, we wouldn't even be really, I mean, they were a good investment for us, cause we had all this extra money.
I'm just thinking if we should roll them over and do it start thinking about doing that.
Yeah.
I think if you could possibly keep those going, we should.
That's what I'm saying, yeah, just re-up it.
What if we're gonna need them to keep paying these large bills for the lagoon?
We can take them out at any time, right?
Without penalty, there's always.
Well, There's a penalty, but-
There'd be a penalty if you took them out early, but, I think we should have, Paula find out when they're due.
Okay.
And how much
And,
penalty if there's any to re-up.
She can ask the financial institution what kind of rates there are, and, bring that back, 'cause I don't think they mature this month, but I thought we'd have another month here, so. But it's a good point, to bring it up ahead of time.
Cause we've been going a while now paying these monthly fees without our FEMA, which was going to help subsidize. And we're just pouring out money right now. we have to keep that in mind. And it's hard to keep up because the bill's different every month, it's hard to come in.
Yeah, like, you know, this month's was a much lower bill. I think, you know, we had some that were like, you know, 18,000, and I think this month's, well, see, now we're kind of like an impasse.
We're at a stalemate for
So,
sure.
that's why things
Yeah.
haven't,
I would think we're at a stalemate.
yeah,
And I would think, you know, wouldn't those first few bills that we've been paying, isn't some of that reimbursable?
yeah.
If and when, that's the problem.
Well, when I was at League of Cities, I had breakfast with Deanne Amon, and, you know, we're not in an unusual spot. Everybody's projects are being held up. So, you know, it was just kind of like, you just have to wait to see what happens. And, you know, hope you don't get, you know, too far into it. And, this week Tammy asked me just to kind of get the Apex, you know, all the Apex bills that we had paid so far, so we would know how much we were into Apex for. So I would assume like she's kind of keeping an eye on that too.
You got a total?
Yeah, which I sent it to you.
And we had, their total bill was like $398,000, I think we paid it.
We paid about $156,000
So far.
so far. Is it good news or?
Evening.
Evening.
Okay, looking for that.
Oh.
Well, I would, you know, before we move on to anything else, I would approve the financial, I'd make a motion to approve the financial report unless there's any other discussion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, all in favor to approve the financials? Say aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Next we'll do our announcements, which is City Government Week, which is actually this week. But we are, because it's so much going on, we are postponing it, and I don't think most of the city even knows that we're having it, so, but, we were thinking about having it in May, beginning part of May, right? If everyone's okay with that. It's not really we have to vote on, we just thought, we want to make it something nice, and, it wouldn't be a whole week, it would be more like a day here, but we wanna make it worthwhile and invite the kids from the school and to see how city government works and things like that, so. I do a little more than poor Paula had to do by herself last year, so.
I thought you did a fine job.
You did a wonderful job, yeah.
Yeah,
You did
okay.
You did a great
It
job.
was 2 hours of lots of fun.
Yeah, okay. So that's kind of all we want to talk about on that, so let's move on to the auditor.
Okay, I went to the League of Cities meeting, it was really good it was mostly for municipal financial officers, so there was a lot of good stuff. The bad part about it was, it started, like, these meetings started like at 7:30 in the morning, and like, that was like, you had to be at it. And then it went like till like 5:30 the first day, which is a long day, and a lot of it was about the legislature, like, and then they would have this list of bills and what would happen if this passed, and what would happen if this passed, or if this didn't pass, and at the very end, Matt Gardner, who was the head of it, had said, well, you know, this would really help us if you contacted your legislators and asked them to support this. And so then about 5 minutes later, he said, now what was that bill I asked you for your support on? And nobody said a word. It's like, we just want to go have our free drink ticket and leave. So then they kind of gave up on it. But there's a lot about mill levies, which was so interesting because the mill levy lady said, okay, here's what this town, needs for their budget, and here's their tax stuff. And I leaned over to the auditor from Ray and said, now, don't we try to like max this out? And she said, oh, of course, this one doesn't know what she's talking about. So it was kind of an interesting thing that there maybe are places in the world where they think like you might not need every dollar you can possibly get, but that's not the Fessenden way. So it was a very worthwhile event, and mostly because it was kind of targeted at auditors and other people like that. The fall meeting is kind of for elected officials, you guys, so there's less, there are less workshops on everything. One thing that they did talk about too, which we don't really have to worry about, is social media and what to do and not to do, and since we don't really have that, it wasn't an issue. But thank you for sending me, even though after I was done, I felt like I'd been in a prison camp, because it was just really, really long. Okay, Black Mountain Software, I'm getting some reports so you can see how it contrasts with QuickBooks. She sent a couple, she's gonna send some more. We would only need the fund accounting and the payroll. Utilities, Jeff is happy with the utilities ones that he does for the water billing, but that's always an add-on later if we wanted to do that. So that's pretty much all I have.
You're gonna find a price quote for a black.
Yeah,
Okay.
Haven't got one yet.
no, well, it was
Ballpark?
it's not cheap, but it's not gonna be, it's going to be, it's for cities. We're using this QuickBooks
Is it
and,
gonna be like 4,000 or 12,000?
well, it depends on what we pick. It's not gonna be like 20,000 or anything. It's not gonna be like,
We pick the different programs
Yeah.
in there.
but again, and I'll tell you, it is infrastructure for this city, it is.
Yeah.
Not, I'm just wondering what it's,
Well,
I think
I'll
everyone's
make sure you have a
agreed.
clergyman with you, Brian, when I'll tell you
Yeah.
the final
They
price.
sent a partial pricing, and they didn't send it all, because she called her back and said, we need this and this. It's just a couple of things.
Yeah, and then they
And
do,
so
like,
we're waiting.
then when you get to that point, then they go, it's online, so you guys can all come over your lunch break, and they do a demo on what you can do with it. And I will just tell you, everybody at League of Cities said they loved it, and even if something goes wrong, you know how to fix it. It's like a truck,
I think the council doesn't need to be convinced about it. I think everybody's
I
in
just-
agreement that we need it.
if I'm looking at a new tractor, I wanna know if it's gonna be 30,000 or 200,000, that's all I'm wondering.
Well, the price will be revealed to you in good time.
We wanna just put that on the agenda for next one.
Yeah, she'll have a more firm
And
thing.
then we need to take a vote and get it started, because the lady in charge said it could take till the end of the year to get it installed even.
Well, yeah, this is a national program, and a big part of it is the training, because otherwise you're turning somebody loose with something and you don't even know how to use it. So the training is, and so you have to have somebody who's willing to do that too. And I totally am willing to do that.
I think when you get the info, like before next month's meeting, send that out to the council so we can look at it before the meeting.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm going to be
I
prepared to
think that
vote on
would,
it.
that would
Yeah.
be good.
Okay. Anything else, Paula?
Nope.
On the auditors, thank you very much. Next is our Public Works Commissioner, Jeff Rory.
I have nothing.
Nothing today. Fixed your truck, you're good. Okay. Okay, we're gonna move on to unfinished business, the all-school, I'm sorry.
Before, I did get numerous compliments on not plowing the streets, the gravel streets. There was at least 3 different guys lived on the gravel streets that were thankful that you didn't plow the gravel streets, so.
I have no intention of touching any of those.
Even though the garbage truck driver was a little miffed because apparently they got stuck once or twice.
He
but
got-
it's
he
like,
got-
well,
He got stuck over by Benny Hirschkorn,
yeah, right. But
and
there
his
was,
truck is not a 4-wheel drive.
There was far more compliments on leaving it and not blading the gravel off, so that was a good decision.
Okay, so, thank you, Jeff. We're gonna move on to the all-school reunion, the street dance, and the special liquor permit. There must have been some questions on that. Did you have some questions?
Well, as of last meeting, you thought there was a special liquor for the evening.
Permit.
So, permit, yes. I completely spaced it, my fault. We would be able to, Motorhead's Bunker, would be able to be open till 1 in the street. Because that's Fessenden's, how do I go about saying the 2 bars would like to be open till 2? For that reason, when Motorheads and I closed down the street dance bar, we gotta haul all the stuff back to our bars. And I'm sure there's gonna be people following us, so is there a chance that just the 2 bars can be open till 2 o'clock, just that Saturday night?
That would be a question for the state, I don't believe.
Well, the state already says you're allowed to be open till 2.
State is 2 o'clock,
Yeah.
But-
it's city for 1 o'clock.
Do we have to have a special ordinance to be able to permit that, or can we do it on a?
Special permit.
I think you could do it in a special permit, it's a one-time only thing, it's 1 hour that is covered by the state of North Dakota. I mean, we're just more restricted than the state says 2
Well,
o'clock.
I move we do it, I don't have any problem
Yeah, see,
doing it.
state is 2, and thank you.
Okay, let's take
I
a
just,
vote.
as far as it being, all I'm worried about is if it's legal or not, so.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
good.
So you're
Okay,
gonna have a special permit, you're gonna pay for it.
okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did you have anything else regarding that, the street bar?
Not this meeting, maybe next meeting.
Okay. We're only allowed so many. Okay, thank you. Next on our agenda is a letter to the residents about property maintenance prior to the all-school reunion. And that is in your packet, provided by the committee.
Yeah, that was dropped off by Jason Pepley today.
We agreed to mail these out, didn't we? So everyone take it, read it and see if it works for you, and I'll get it sent out.
It's fine.
Put her in paper?
What's that?
Can you put this in the paper?
Well, they want them mailed out to all the
$40.
residents, so.
With this letter, do we want to add, I see it's from Jason, the all-school union and so forth, do we wanna co-endorse this letter? City of Fessenden, mayor sign it, whatnot. That would be a nice token. So, it's not only coming from the group, it's also coming from the city.
Okay, who's the first group, Jeff?
Okay, all in favor on adding the city to the letter? Opposed, nay? Okay, motion carried. Okay, the next one, Tammy. Tammy with the bad news. Well, thank you.
Well, we were gonna open bids for the Fessenden Lagoon project May 1st. We heard rumblings of this Friday night, got the official notification today, the federal government has pulled all the brick grant funding under FEMA. State of North Dakota is gonna lose about $130 million. I have been working with, the North Dakota Department of Emergency Services, Director of Homeland Security, Darren Hansen. All of us that are losing the funding have been in contact with him. We've been working with our governor's office, and they're working with our federal delegation to get this funding put back in place. We don't like the idea that you just went in and slashed a whole program. So the federal government is always a year behind in everything. So, for example, the 2024 brick grants are due at the end of this month. cancel those going forward if you wanna revamp the project. That's fine. But don't cancel those that we've been in the works for 5 years with this. Heartbreaking is the hundreds of hours. It's tough.
Now,
So what we're gonna do, we're gonna continue with the opening of the bids on May 1st, just to see where we're at, in hopes that our congressional delegation, putting some pressure on the Trump administration, will, and FEMA, revisit this. One of the reasons we heard is because there was so much climate change and DEI in all the BRIC grants. The state of North Dakota is a managing state, which means we manage our own FEMA disasters. And we do it for almost 80% less cost than the federal government does. North Dakota didn't, so when we had to write the BRIC grants, the guidelines the state came out for us didn't have a lot of climate change or DEI in it. But to meet the federal requirements, we had to do a little bit. So for the Fessenden Lagoon project, our aquifers are a couple miles from the lagoon, and the potential, if our lagoon fails, to contaminate that aquifer. That aquifer goes through so many different communities and other counties. And we also touch the tip of the Spirit Lake Nation. So North Dakota, we use, as our DEI projects in North Dakota, are underserved populations. Spirit Lake Tribal Nation is one of those. That's what we use in North Dakota. Federal government, instead of, to me, you have artificial intelligence now, go through all the grants, kick out the ones that don't fit the BRIC criteria, because BRIC stands for Building Resilient Infrastructure in Communities. The Fessenden Lagoon project is a project like that. I have a $500,000 grant to put a new generator in the hospital. Tell me, their wording in this I thought was kind of crazy. The BRIC program was yet another example of a wasteful and ineffective FEMA program. Tell me how fixing our lagoon and putting a generator at the hospital is wasteful and ineffective. Somebody explain that to me, and you can't get anybody from the federal government to explain it. So that's where we're sitting. Gosh, I was hoping to come in with great news, awesome news. This just was a kick in the teeth on Friday when we started hearing rumblings of this. Couldn't believe it.
and trying to talk them out of it.
Well,
I don't think that's gonna happen personally.
yeah,
I hope so, but.
I think it will. One thing, the head of FEMA, Homeland Security, is Kristi Noem. So FEMA falls under Homeland Security. Kristi Noem used to be the South Dakota governor. Our governor and Kristi Noem are good friends. I'm hoping that Governor Armstrong picks up the phone and says, "What the heck?"
That would be good.
And if not, I mean, we're gonna keep pushing this. I mean, they're putting out a press release. I gave it to Ann. As you flip through that, it's the memos from FEMA. The two memos, and then you'll see on top it says North Dakota Department of Emergency Services. This is the press release that went out this evening from North Dakota Department of Emergency Services, our division. Darren Hansen, he's the head of, and he called me and asked, because I sent him quite a long email, and he asked if he could use a lot of the Fessenden information in this, and absolutely. He's had some calls about doing some interviews, and he asked if they could give my information, so if you get a call, Madam Mayor, and they ask for information from you, refer to this press release. Okay? Or any of you get that. Okay.
So, do we have, a plan B in mind? Has your group discussed if this should happen, what our next move might be?
So some of the things we've been talking about is the North Dakota legislature does have an emergency commission if we have to go through the emergency commission. If not, the city's gonna have to start discussing plan B, what your plan B would be. You can't ignore the lagoon. I mean, Brian, you've seen how bad it is. Is it, you use that Clean Water State Revolving Fund loan and, for $2 million and put $2 million into it and put a Band-Aid on it? You know, those are hard discussions we're gonna have to have in the future if this doesn't fly through.
What is the state one you just mentioned?
State's gonna lose $130 million.
No, the group.
Clean Water State Revolving Fund? That's
The group that we can talk to potentially.
The emergency.
Oh, Emergency Commission.
Emergency Commission.
What if the lagoon failed? I mean, what if it failed?
So if it would fail, the city would be bankrupt.
Oh,
Because-
okay.
You would contaminate, you're a half a mile from Wells County Water Resource District drain number 1. That flows into the James River.
So they do not care that this could be a really terrible situation,
No.
okay, okay.
Our little town and the 2 million that we're gonna get is like a speck in the bottom of the big scheme of things. It's unfortunate, but.
You know, one thing Darren Hansen told me, he says, you know, yeah, Bismarck is losing 70 million, City of Lincoln is losing 10 million. But he said the Fessenden project, he said that one was near and dear to my heart because it was a little community. First time a little community in North Dakota received something like this. And he said 2 million to Fessenden is like 70 million to Bismarck.
Yes.
And he said, you know, that was,
And we're stuck with a lagoon that's over 100 years old, that's on the verge of collapse.
102 years old.
And then, of course, now we still have to pay the engineers.
So, and the last page is highlighted in yellow, and then Nexus. This is what's been submitted for reimbursement. So, I can only submit what I have documentation for. So the stuff highlighted in yellow is what I've submitted so far. And there's like $108,000 total in that fund. And we get 75% back, so.
If we get funding.
No, this funding's here.
Oh,
This for
that's the
this.
one that's already approved.
This
is
funding's
money
here.
we've paid.
Right,
Yep, I got this from what we paid, and what I highlighted in yellow is what I've sent in for,
right.
reimbursement.
That I know we've paid, I'm just wondering what,
164
the money
we paid,
back.
and it looks like we could potentially get 56,000 back of that.
well, we would get, there's 108,000. What's highlighted in yellow, Jeff, is what I've been able to send in for reimbursement. The others stuff, I can't send in unless I have the invoice and a copy of the check, and I just need that documentation. So,
You know, we look at what we're gonna lose, but the engineering company that's done all this work expecting that project's gonna go through, look at the money that they have invested, that's, you know, it's just gonna evaporate.
well, and Daniel's bill is $140,000 that he would get out of this grant, for managing this grant, that's gone. He thinks he'll have to close his business, cause all the mitigation projects, everything goes.
so if this whole thing falls apart, I haven't had a chance to read through all the paperwork. How much would the city of Fessenden be responsible to owe of what's currently been done?
You have all the bills right here.
It's right here.
Okay, so that's for Nexus?
No, Nexus.
No, not Nexus, that's for Apex,
Apex,
yeah.
164,000, so you'd get about,
But didn't we owe them like 398,000 in total?
that's if the project would, that would have been the second
That's my
phase.
question,
That's
yeah.
the second phase, the construction phase. We're not in construction phase.
No, I thought that was just the
So 75%, if we get all these inputted, we could potentially get 75% of that 164 back.
No, there's only $108,000 in that fund.
Oh, 180.
She's got them highlighted, the ones we're eligible to submit.
Nope, that's what I've submitted
Oh,
so
that's
far.
what you have, but we can submit all of these?
Yeah, if I get the documentation.
But we won't get 75 on all this, cause they don't have enough money to, right, okay.
But you knew that going in, that you'd have to pay 25%.
Yeah.
Have you had any conversation with the engineers? So,
I talked to Susan, emailed her, and then I talked to her today.
cause I think we need to start talking about a plan B, which would basically be bank stabilization and riprap, which is about as much as we're just gonna have to try and reinforce and rebuild the dikes and rock them, and that's what we're gonna have to work with.
And one of the issues that the Department of Environmental Quality is having, is.
They're not gonna give us any, they're not gonna sign off on just band-aiding something like this.
Well, the issue is too, is because there's so much waste material in the bottom of that lagoon, there's 100 years of waste material. It's not fermenting like it should, to go from one cell to the next cell, so they have a concern with that we still need to dredge something out of it. It's just a vicious circle. I mean, it just feels like you're just chasing your tail.
Well, I know for a fact that nobody has found any fill yet. Nothing within 15 miles of town, so. We've scoured 400 square miles around here and there's nothing.
And our conversations today, Daniel and Susan and I today were, let's still open the bids May 1st. If the bids come in at 7, 8, 9, 10 million, well then we know we gotta come up with plan B.
If there is a bid.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
They've given some of the, there's, I think you and I talked about this, some other stuff you can add to the,
I did some research on that,
our engineer put that out there as an option.
Yeah, but the only place you can get that from is like Wyoming, and you gotta get it in like ton totes. It would be like $3.5 million just to get the material here, not to even use it in the bottom of it. It's insane the cost, so.
You know, and my hope is still, and you and I, you know, you tell me I'm wishful thinking, but I keep thinking that lagoon lasted 102 years, there's gotta be a clay liner in there.
The liner's all the buildup at the bottom. I think.
Exactly, you know, I've been in barns where the stuff is compacted over years, it's hard like a rock. So, you know, that's my hope, is maybe we'll be surprised when the construction companies get in there and say, wow. 100 years of,
You think of a plan B, and is a plan B like we just need to start from scratch somewhere else, and do you put just a fabric deck liner in a
That's,
smaller?
I got prices on that too, the poly or PVC liner is like over $3 million, and you still gotta roll it out, you still gotta weld all the seams and the labor, it'd be over 4 million just for that, and you haven't dug a hole yet.
On a brand new spot.
Yeah. Cause there isn't a bit of soil around within 10 miles of town where you could build this and have the dirt, the dirt's no good. It's just sand and silt.
I'm still hoping they'll flip this for North Dakota, because North Dakota under FEMA is considered the gold standard. We're one of 2 states that manage our own federal disasters. For every dollar we spend on mitigation, we save like $8. So that's huge in North Dakota. So we're hoping they look at that and say, North Dakota does it right. So that's. So. Sorry to be Debbie Downer today. But, yeah,
Who's on this emergency commission?
I'd have to look.
It's the North Dakota legislative emergency, so there'll be,
And
Klein would know maybe?
I've sent Jerry Klein's in the loop with this, he's our senator from Fessenden, he's in the loop. Yeah, our federal congressional delegation will be getting a letter from Darren Hansen tomorrow. Governor's office, the governor was actually at the same conference I was at, and as he was walking out the door, I caught him, and he didn't know about it, and I told him. So he's aware, and he was aware now from DES, so. It just, like I said, just crazy that you can go backwards and say, and there's some projects across the United States that are in the middle of their project, and they have to stop. Now what do you do? At least we're not moving dirt and stopping. So, some hard discussions with this going forward, we'll have to do.
Definitely gonna have to work on this right away.
So I'll keep everybody in the loop. I'll send out an email to Paula when I hear more, and then she can forward it on to all the council members.
Well, Tammy, you tried so hard, and you still ain't
We had it.
trying. Yeah.
We had it.
Yeah, we appreciate all the hard work that you and your team have done. And what a disappointment, wow.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and you're not Debbie Downer, because you're still positive. You came in, and even though it's bad news, you came in with some really positive ideas and a positive attitude as best you could, so.
Well, that's not what you heard me say this afternoon.
Well, that's a good change.
I'll just have to call Elon and see if he'll help us.
Yeah, what's 2 million to him?
Yeah, nothing.
And that's actually funny, cause I actually thought of that too.
You never know.
If there's anybody that would like to donate to the Fessenden Lagoon project, we're taking donations.
Yeah, minimum $1 million, please.
Yeah. Hey, maybe when there's somebody coming for the Fessenden reunion,
Yeah.
You never know.
maybe we need to start charging them $1 to flush.
Can always start a GoFundMe page.
There you
Hey,
go, there you go.
What are we out?
Talk to your buddy Elon.
So, any questions for me? I'm open to comments, suggestions.
So would it, I mean, if we're, well, I didn't think it would be worst case scenario, but could we go to composting toilets?
Oh.
Oh, no.
Okay, stop, wait a minute, somebody in here used them, it was Ann. So just before you discount it, will it be better than not being able to go to the bathroom?
You still gotta wash clothes and wash dishes and take showers and baths, and that's the,
It's all our water consumption. Yeah.
And then all that would get pumped out into the street, and we have no street sewer, so it'd be,
And that's not good for building infrastructure in your community and asking businesses to come to your community.
right.
Yeah, you would lose your community, the schools aren't gonna do it, the co-ops, you're gonna lose your community.
Oh, yeah, well, that's true, yeah.
So put your thinking caps on and think of plan B if we absolutely can't get this through, but I'm hoping our federal delegation will.
Well, thank you very much, Tammy. Really
Thanks a lot, Tammy.
appreciate it. Okay, shall we move on to new business?
sure.
Okay, we have Chris Sterner on here, but I don't see him. So I'm assuming that he's not going to be here. Okay, let's move on to gaming at the bunker with Brian Maddox.
Ryan Kennedy, I'm the gaming manager with the Maddox Fire Department. We currently run the gaming at the Maddox Bar. And through this discussion over the past year and a half or so, we're going to start conducting gaming at the bunker here in town in conjunction with the Fessenden Fire Department. They're gonna help us run it, and then they will get a vast majority of the proceeds. We've been doing it for almost 7 years in Maddox, and we've been able to give out over $225,000 in grants to the community. Almost 99% of it stayed in Maddox, and that's what I want to do here too. So and part of that process is getting you guys to sign what they call a site authorization for the types of gaming that we want there. And what I'm looking for approval would be a pull tab dispensing device, which is the paper cards you see. Then the electronic pull tabs, which is the machines that look like slot machines. And then sports pools, which would be like, those would be only for certain events like the Super Bowl and stuff like that, where you can sell a square for whatever price you want to decide. That's the 3 types of gaming that we'd like to conduct there, I guess. This is the form, it's all filled out.
How about the card, the blackjack?
You didn't want any blackjack, did you? Do you?
No.
Oh, you do? Okay. Well, we can do blackjack too, so I guess we'll ask for blackjack.
We were looking.
This is our, if you really wanna read it, it's just a bunch of words on how the games have to be run in order to follow all the state laws.
This is in conjunction with our fire department, you said?
Yep, we're gonna have 2 employees from the fire department doing most
You
of the
guys
work.
have, I'm sure, read this.
So how, the reason this is going on is we were hoping by now that we could have set this up on ourselves, but it's taking way longer we got lawyers involved to get ourselves the right pieces in place so we can do it. And we reached out to them and asked them if they would be willing to take it over for us until we get our stuff together. And then
Until they get their own license, yeah.
Which is gonna take about another year. We have to be officially active as an entity to do it for 2 years before the state will give you a license. You have to be in existence for 2 years.
Okay.
So right now, we've been in existence for about 8 months, so until that 2-year thing happens. They offered to come in and do it, and we'll obviously have to do all the legwork around here to make it happen, but once we get to where we can take it over, then they've offered to let us just basically take it over once we can, so.
And this will benefit our fire department
It's
also?
all for the fire department.
Yay.
The money will come back to the community. The majority of ours goes to emergency services,
Mhm.
medical expenses for people having benefits and that, and then in schools.
The
Is where the
fire
vast
department
majority.
needs some income, yeah.
Explain, you've only been around eight months, what do you mean by that?
The entity that we had to set up with the Secretary of State to get a EIN
You can't
number.
be the Fessenden Fire Protection, no?
They like to keep it segregated, cause they watch that gaming money really close. Everything has to be to the penny. Cause it's so dealing with all that cash, there's opportunities there
Sure,
for it to walk away.
And when the fire department had approached me about it almost 2 years ago, when things started going, the state gaming started making all sorts of changes, so now that's why it came up, where I was at them like this, but they have to, a lot of different changes. And you've only been, how many months now?
We got our numbers like last summer,
Yeah.
but we're still working on, we have to get our board and bylaws and everything set up for this separate entity that's gonna handle the gaming, and then once that gets set up, then we can submit paperwork to the IRS to become a 501c3, which could take another 6 months or whatever, but our number is currently active with the Secretary of State, and that's when the clock started, so to speak, so you have to be 2 years before the gaming at the state level, we can look at giving you a permit, so.
And that's because years ago, their gaming wasn't as big as it is now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So anybody could, and
No, we're working on it. Just grateful, thank you guys for.
Yeah, and I think it'll be good cause you'll be able, I've been doing it for 7 years, so I'll be able to help you train basically for when you do take it over.
That sounds really good.
I have a lot of the forms and like that 60-page manual that I had to write from scratch. And
So you're gonna keep this separate from the Maddox stuff, or how are you gonna do that?
it's a different site, so it's all different
All
accounting.
site-based?
Yep, every site has to be.
Need the authorization? Yeah. Need to do the authorization. The city, I was reading on there, the city needs to check what we're allowing.
Yeah, I can't check
Would be
the
the
budget.
list that you
They
said.
used to be able to go on the computer and check them before I brought them, but
Yeah.
you guys have to do it. So it would just be them 4 things.
Is this your copy or for us?
You can keep it
Okay.
if you wanna look at it, if you really wanna read it.
Well, if the council agrees on it, then we'll keep everything together, we'll make a copy of this.
Yeah, I'll need the
Yeah.
original of
Yeah.
the form, other than that, you can keep everything else.
Yeah, we'll make a file for that.
Okay. So, yeah, so it'll just be the 2 full tabs, 21 and sports schools
Okay.
is what we're looking, and if you don't want one of them for whatever reason, then you just wouldn't approve that, I guess.
So what about the blackjack?
They call it 21, is what they call it, yeah,
Yeah.
blackjack.
I don't gamble a lot.
And all proceeds go to the fire department?
They will-
Is that what you said?
When it's under us, yes, we will let them know how much the proceeds are each quarter. And then they will send in a request for whatever they wanna spend it on. And there's about 100 different eligible uses that can be spent, and emergency services is one of them. They can, as a fire department, they can spend it on trucks and gear and SCBA's and whatever they want, just about. As well as schools and churches and medical expenses, they're all eligible uses.
So that's something the fire department will be determine
Yes,
what you're gonna do.
what it's spent on. And even, like you said, for that all-school reunion, if we have gaming here, they can send in a request also. Cause we get from all over the state, I think they go on the website, a list of charities and just mass mail out requests for random projects all over.
No, school is in June though.
Eventually, this will become the Fessenden Fire Department, whatever that, what's the name of your entity?
The one we're gonna use for the gaming is gonna be called the Fessenden Hook and Ladder, is what we're gonna use for the gaming, so.
And so, you know, just thinking ahead of time, once that gets established, and then, you know, obviously, these funds are gonna go to you guys. But then you're just, whether you give that to the fire protection district or whomever asks for funding, I suppose, right?
Yep, whoever puts a request in,
Yeah.
there's a form you have to fill out,
Yeah.
and then it has to be eligible.
Right, okay.
The ultimate goal is, I guess, would be, I mean, we're trying to get enough stuff going to build a new hall. And that's kind of our ultimate goal, is using it mostly for that, so we can maybe not have to use so much tax money for that, so.
Yeah.
That's kind of.
That sounds like a good way to bring in some income. Okay, do we someone wanna move on this?
I shall move.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second
Okay, all in favor of approving the gaming site authorization? Say aye. Opposed, nay? Motion carried. But let's check these things off again.
Okay.
Okay, okay, it says bingo, electronic quick shot bingo, raffles.
Bingo? I guess she would like raffles too.
Just
But that will have,
happy.
that will actually, you
I've been
actually
working
can't,
on this for a year now.
we will have to come to that another, cause I don't have a raffle section in my control manual,
Okay,
so we'll have to come back to that.
okay, electronic 50/50 raffle, okay. Pull tab jar.
No,
That's- you're
pull
doing
tab
dispensing
pull-
device.
That's the first one, yep.
Okay.
Then
Electronic pull tab
Yep.
device.
Right.
Okay, club special,
No,
tip
No.
board,
Sports pool, next one?
next one would be sports pool, I believe,
Yeah.
yes.
seal board, punch board. Yeah, prize board, a bunch of boards, okay. Sports pools,
Yep.
yes.
Sports
okay.
pools, yeah,
21,
And then
Yes.
21.
yeah.
and that should be it.
For now, yeah, I'll have to get the
Until we get
raffles
the
done.
raffles.
I'll have to get that added.
Alright, so we've got 4 then, the pull tab dispensing device, the electronic pull tab device, sports pools, and 21.
Yep.
Okay. Now, do we want to have any certain days of the week of gaming operations? Hours of gaming, this says if restricted, I guess. Do we want to restrict in any way, or just let it go?
Isn't it whenever they're open?
State law is whenever they're on sale selling liquor is when they can be for gaming.
Okay, then I'll sign this and we'll have Paula make a copy, and you guys are good to go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see. Today's 7th, right? This is just the bunker, correct? Just
Correct.
your
When will it go into effect, or when will it start, do you think?
July 1st.
Gaming license is July 1st to the following year, last day of June.
Well, he probably doesn't have the letter back.
No, you can keep that.
Okay.
I don't know.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Okay, and then while she's doing that, we're gonna go ahead and move on, to updating the building permits per county assessor. And I think Jana had left something in our packets regarding building permits. Per Wills County Tax Director, following information should be included in all building permits. The legal description of the land, the parcel number, and the physical address of where construction will take place. So we'll need to
That'll just have to be updating our
update.
form.
Yes,
right?
correct, yeah.
And we have a form in there too.
Yeah, the physical address is on there already.
Well, they're talking the physical address where the construction will take place, for instance, like, if you own more than one parcel or a different lot, and you decided to say build a shed on some lot, if you were to put the physical address where you're building that shed versus just saying, hey, I'm building a shed. Does that make sense? Like, cause it could be attributed to the lot that you're living on. It just gets, it just makes it more specific to where everything is happening. So there's not as much confusion when it goes to everything else, taxes to whatever maybe.
Yeah, we'll just,
Yeah.
you know, and I don't know if these are in a format that you can change, I guess.
I think so.
Word doc, we can add in legal, parcel at some point, somewhere on here.
Yeah, I would have to believe that if they had a separate property from where they live, the address they put on the building permit would be the address for that property and not where they live.
Well, this just makes it so you can't do that, you know,
Yeah,
just say,
we'll have to make
yeah,
sure
I
it's separate.
got this on my property and then I'm building this over here, and there, it just alleviates the confusion, basically is what it does.
I'm just wanting to make sure I'm clear with what it means by physical address. That's not the 911 address?
Yes.
It's the literal physical address of where the building is taking place.
Lot 14, block 1, such and such edition.
Yeah, and that's handled by number 1 and number 2, the legal description of the land and the
Right.
parcel number.
Right. Parcel number is given.
I would just say the physical address of where the construction would take place most likely will be the same as the physical address of the person's property, but there might be a situation where it isn't. You know, you might have Jeff Johnson lives here, here's his address, you know, he signs up for this, but he bought the lot a block over and is putting something there, that's a different physical address.
Yeah, so they just need, they need to make sure that they write the address for that property,
Well,
not their
I think
address.
it's good to have the person's address in there though. I think having just a separate line, you know, construction where.
Construction address or something.
So then the address line will have to say address of construction if different from
Yeah,
residence.
Yeah,
Yeah, that works.
99% of the time it'll probably be the same, but there could be, I mean, in town here, there's been numerous, buildings gone up, not on the person's.
Yep.
But if we wanna get a hold of the person, what's their address or where do we gotta go to see them?
I'm just trying to make sure it's clarified, so it's,
Yep.
we don't have to do it again.
Thank you for clarifying.
I think all three of these should be added, I mean, it's good to, it
And then
makes,
also,
makes her job easier.
yeah, and then it also makes it say like, oh yeah, I'm putting
Yeah.
a building on
I'd
Vince's
change it to
lot.
like 12
Yeah.
I'd be like, who the heck is Vince? You know, coming off of it, you know?
A little more detail,
Did you
Yeah.
guys make any other changes to it, or, okay,
just these
Just
three.
the list, Janet gave us.
okay, okay.
I would
So
say,
maybe-
once you get this changed, how we need to change this to add this,
Right.
run it through Jana and make sure that that's what she wants before
Yeah.
we,
And then we should intervene like next month, you know,
Yes.
go through the
Okay,
actual,
but well, one of my questions was on the building permit, you know, there's like a place where you have to sign that you received a copy of the, and there's a lot of, you know.
city ordinance.
Yeah, it's like, and then this thing where people have to submit their materials, that is a problem because they just get their Menards list and bring it in, and it's just like, I hate building permits now, cause they're just like little phone books.
Too much, yeah.
I mean, I
well,
think
there's a
like,
reason we've had to do this.
we know.
They should be responsible enough to break down their materials. Asphalt shingles, 2x4 construction, insulated garage doors.
Yeah,
I
just,
don't think it has
Some
to be,
basic, yeah.
1,600 nails, it doesn't have to be that. But you never know when you're gonna run into one of them situations where all of a sudden you got some weird stuff going on.
well, there was one instance where someone was going, I think it was, Jordan and her husband who were gonna build like a metal fence. And, you know, it was like, well, is it gonna be a tin can metal fence, or is it gonna be a nice metal fence? And I think with a certain situation we have in town, that we just are so hyper about this.
Well, we have a couple examples in town.
Yeah, and,
Don't shine very well.
yeah,
It's just, I understand what she's saying, especially in the summer. She would spend half a day just making copies of 4 permits because they're this thick,
That
you know.
shouldn't be necessary.
Yeah, maybe we can maybe put that on the next agenda to work on streamlining a
What
little bit.
committee's for.
Yeah, committees
Yeah.
can do that.
Yeah, and we were supposed to get these permits to go through them before review.
Yeah, we didn't move on that. We brought it up and then we just kinda tabled it, so we, to put the, for, you know, the permits to be
Yeah.
put
So
before
should
the
we
committee.
wait to approve this until we've made these changes?
I don't think so.
No,
This one has come in, I think we should act on this one, but next month, get these incorporated into here, and then let's look at a blank form, and we
Yeah.
can, if we wanna make any other changes or whatnot, we
and
Decide
maybe
at
we
that
can look
point in
into
time.
streamlining a little bit, or bring them.
can, yeah.
I guess I'm not too clear where, I know we're at Elm Avenue, but 116.
We're working on the Cindy Melby building permit.
You know where Cindy lives, right across the street from Wayne Mullenkamp? You know where Joel Marks lives?
Yeah.
Right kitty corner from Joel's, that lot that used to be the old Dietz house.
Yeah.
That torn down.
Yeah.
Cindy bought that lot from Joel, and she's building this garage on that lot, right on
Just a
that
garage.
corner. Yep.
I don't like that.
Huh?
I don't like that. Where does she live?
Right next door. She lives right to the north, the White House.
Oh, okay.
There's an empty lot right here.
I'm all hooked up here. Okay. Disregard my last draft.
So she's gonna own from her lot all the way to the
Corner, she does own it, she bought it from Joel's.
whole thing.
Yes.
She said how much is
30 by 40.
Good size, put one of my work trucks in there.
Not that I'm an artist, but their drawing for, it shows a house garage and then a new garage, and it just says Elm Avenue. Doesn't tell which way is north or south, doesn't tell what cross streets are.
To the left of the paper is
North.
north.
Yes. You see where the house is?
Okay.
That's north. What are the, I
Setback.
guess I'd like to see what the setback is. I mean, is it gonna be in line with their house? What's on the door can be on?
Well, off the street, it has to be what, 20?
If there's an entrance there, a door, it has to be 20 feet.
If the door's on the north end, then she's fine.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't have to be 20 then off the road.
But what I'm saying is the garage door,
Right.
you know, where you drive your car. Is that gonna be from the west?
I don't know.
Oh, yeah, it doesn't show where she's putting the door.
Need more information.
I agree.
Need more information.
It would be nice to see a more clarifying drawing of this, whether we have to go over there ourselves and meet with her, or just have her do a more in-depth drawing.
Could we do an approval upon clarification of, setbacks, et cetera? I hate to be holding people up now.
I hate to too.
We're so short of time.
But they're not scheduled to start till June 25th.
I wonder what the width of the lot is.
Yeah, I agree with you that we need more specific.
And is the general contractor she has, is that a known contractor for the area?
It's from New Rockford.
So,
This is one of the reasons that you mentioned, Carl, that we should maybe have a committee look at these things before they bring it to the council for approval, cause they could have gone over and gotten, yeah, you could have gotten the information, you could have seen it here tonight, approved it, and then away we go.
And there are other things missing on the front page, we don't have the contractor's phone number. There's obviously a spot there for that, and that was ignored.
Well, it says general contractor Kevin Omoff,
Right, but then the next line is phone number.
yeah.
Why that would be an issue, I don't know if it's been an issue in the past where we would have needed to get a hold of the contractor.
I don't know, just remembering what the lot looks like. I kinda wonder if she come to join the lots?
she did,
She did,
in the assessment, that's why she got
okay.
She got an
joined the lots.
assessment, so the lots are all just one.
Okay, so she doesn't have to worry about setback on her side. But what about the house to the east, the street to the north, or the street to the south? We're okay in the front.
My guess is the lot that she bought from Joel, that was probably at least 50. You know, this
Big
way,
corner lot.
maybe even 75, that corner lot. It's gotta be 50 to 75, or maybe even more.
I think those lots were, the house, the front of that house was facing south, so starting from the corner, would assume that it would be 75 feet deep and 50 feet, it probably was two lots, actually.
So looking at it from here,
Yep.
you know, it's at least 75 this way,
You think 75?
at least.
Yeah.
If that house, cause those other houses, like that one Vetter just bought, like next door, her lot goes back all the way to Cindy's lot,
Yes.
you know, the one right behind the store. So they might even be 100. 75 at least.
Well, the alley is gonna be 150.
Well, either way, we need more information, we need a
I just
bunch
think
more
clarifying
compliant
the
things,
two
so-
setbacks, making sure she's set back, and then like the access, you know, that, wherever the access point is, that'll determine setback.
Well,
It shouldn't, the building should fit in there fine, I would
Specifics
guess.
about it, but we need more information
With
about
our-
it all. Which way the garage door is gonna face, how big the lot is, that this drawing is.
Building committee
not
director,
to-
building committee, what are your committee?
It's,
Would you guys be willing to,
Ron and,
it's just Vince and Ron, yeah. Would you guys be willing to maybe
Carl's on it too.
contact her and,
Carl, you're on too?
Oh, I thought I was, I don't know,
oh,
I thought that was passed, that we were on a committee, that all these would
Yeah,
come through
I think
us,
we just
but
kind of
then.
put Carl where David used to be,
Yes.
so you are on it.
yes, my apologies, yes.
That lot you're talking about is 70 by 70.
Oh. So, do you guys, wanna maybe touch bases with her and, so that she understands we need a little more clarity on this?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And then we'll just hold it till next time.
Did she get in touch with you, Jeff, on finding the curb stop?
Not yet.
There's no water and stuff there?
Just kind
There,
of-
well, there was,
No,
so,
and
and the intention is to hook back up to water and sewer, so
And,
hopefully they ran the water and sewer in the same trench from the house out to the street. So when it comes time to hook up, when you find the water, they can find the sewer as well, otherwise I told her it's gonna be an entire new tap, which gets expensive.
Sure.
You know which way the sewer main runs there?
It runs on both streets.
It's on both streets, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's good.
let's just table this till the next meeting and let our committee do their thing. That, everyone in agreement with that?
Do you wanna move the table?
Can we move to do that?
I think you need a motion.
Second, we have Ron, okay, and second by Vince. All in favor, say aye.
Right.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Alright, Aaron Opdahl, chip sealing. You have chip sealing? No, that's the wrong thing.
Chips in the ceiling?
Yeah,
Okay, I don't think I need too much time, just. I guess last year was the first time Jeff has had 7 years or 8 years, something like that we chip sealed. And at that point, I had suggested that we chip seal every other year.
was that long ago? Wow.
We did
You're
last
not
year.
just talking cracks, you're talking.
Crack sealing, no, sorry.
Okay.
Crack
Crack
sealing.
Okay, crack sealing.
Alright,
I thought that
not chip sealing.
some counties we do around here with, out on the highways, we crack seal, every year, and some we do every other year, and I thought, well, if we're doing every other year, let's just go every other year. Since then, I was out, one day with them, and in the county that we do every year, and it's been done, I don't even know, 10, 20 years straight, and that's what the pictures are. There's one picture of a crack, we crack sealed Fessenden last year, and one of those pictures on there is a crack in Fessenden, and we, after seeing what we had done on these other roads, I thought, the city probably has benefit to crack seal every year, so figured I'd come present it to you guys, and you can go either way. I don't know, you guys got different, they're in different order, but there's a crack there that you can see that it's completely healed up. There's no crack, I mean, it's full of tar or whatever, so, and that's from, doing it year after year after year type thing. And we know that these roads are destroyed by moisture getting under the roadbed and driving on the road. Right now they're open because they're frozen, the cracks are open, we pour tar in, and they close up and they get a pressure seal, the rubber. And I guess that's the main cause on this. If you got cracks, if you got a crack, water trickles down through it, and if it's pressure sealed, then it doesn't. And I think if we do it a few times, chances of everything getting, completely closed up through the warm months is much better, so.
If you can get the oil down into the crack deep enough, it actually seals up the faces, so when it moves, it doesn't rub the aggregate off the edges of the crack.
And yeah, I guess how I've explained it, basically it's like, if you got a crack in the road, you got 2 cliffs. Well, if you walk to the edge of the cliff, take your foot and kick rocks down the edge, eventually that cliff gets farther and farther back. As the vehicles drive over a crack, the rocks are gonna break off the edge. And this tar, rubber, whatever you wanna call it, it basically glues the rocks to it. So your crack is also not gonna open up as much through the years. So with that said, last year we did a little trading, whatever, and we blew out the cracks. 4775 was last year what we did the job for, plus the 2,000 blow out cracks. I had talked to Shim after I seen some of these cracks out on this road, and we thought it would probably not near as necessary to blow out the cracks this year as it was last year. I walked around and looked a little bit today, and I thought they'd be pretty good just to go tar them. I only have one, but basically last year we did it $47.75 plus $2,000 to blow them out. So we don't want to do the $2,000 to blow them out, in my suggestion. $47.75, and we do it for $52.75. Last year, I thought we were a little short on oil, so I thought it'd give us a little more freedom to use or come out better on our oil.
So this year you're.
$52.75, we crack seal all the cracks. There are new cracks in town I've walked around and looked at. I obviously haven't scoured the town very well, but that price would include anything, anything new and old.
planning on like doing
Lickety split.
lickety split?
As
How
soon as we get
tacky
to it.
would that be throughout the summer?
So, Ron Selinsky ran this business for like 20 years before us. This is our 3rd year. We're using a new product. It's called PG52 maybe. I could get you all that information if you wanted. 10 years ago, they didn't even really want to do the towns because the dogs stepping in the tar and taking it into the carpets and whatnot. That's not really an issue anymore. We get fairly minimal, basically we get very minimal complaints of that.
Did we hear any last year after we did it?
All I know is we got like an all-school reunion coming up, and if there's tar and all the cracks on the roads and people are tacking it around, they're gonna have a problem with that, right?
I guess Shim would.
But
did you guys hear?
Didn't hear a single thing, that's why I asked it, because we did the same thing we did last year, so
Yeah.
I never heard of a single complaint about tar being tracked around.
That's a good point, but.
Is this the same material that you used last year?
Yes, sir. Yep.
I noticed there was sometimes when, like a skid steer or something would go over that patch and it would like rip it.
Okay,
That was the
so-
old stuff.
So
That
Jeff
was the old
and
stuff.
Johnson and Rourke, Rodney took you guys up on Main Street. So the crumb rubber that they did 7 or 8 years ago, that was down in the cracks.
Okay.
And yes, that would get tore out when we put this new tar in. And actually there's times like if we crack seal and the car would come by, it's sticky for like 30 to 60 seconds type thing. And it would stick to a tire and flip out. I think it happened on one crack on Main Street or whatever. But I think you guys kind of went over and looked that over and discussed it. So that wasn't actually the product we put down, but the product we put down, how do I say it, very shortly caused that to happen in a couple
Right.
places.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you chip the top of it afterwards?
We do not.
It's just the black strip.
Yes, sir.
No sand or anything?
No, they used to do that, and they used to do it out on all the county highways. And now that they went to this new product over the last 2-3 years, there was one county that was still old school or whatever. Last year, 0 counties sanded. The year before, I think one county started to sand, and then they were messing around. And they're like, "Well, this is a waste of time and sand." They're like, "This is not unnecessary," so they quit midterm.
Okay.
I believe that's incorrect information. It's very close to correct information. Nobody sands anymore, but it used to be a must because the tar that they use, I think our tar is 100 degrees hotter than it used to be because it sets up that fast. But there was one time last summer where the tar got pretty thick. On a really hot day, there was a little bit of transfer. So I mean, it's not 100%, but it's. If you guys weren't getting complaints, that is a pretty good thing to me.
Cause I think there was concern, if I remember, there was some concern about this last spring, but never heard anything.
Well, I also seen that those people ran like the toilet paper all over.
That was
the
a
crumb
different
rubber.
product, that was that crumb rubber that
Yes.
we thought was the right answer because we did that before they chip sealed. Well, then probably a third of that stuff got ripped out before they even came to chip seal, cause it was too late till they got to whatever. But
And I think like the snow truck and whatever, that tore a lot of that off as well. But that was 7 or 8 years ago, I believe.
that wasn't that long ago.
How many do you think?
5, no more than 5. Jeff, when did we chip seal? 5 years?
I'm not even sure. It's probably not even, maybe
21 maybe?
4 or 5.
That's what I was, it was after we built the tower,
I don't think it was COVID though.
it was after that.
After COVID?
Yeah.
Really?
I think so.
But you don't have to wait until like June in order to do this. You
No.
can, like, get
He wants to
going
do it like
whenever-
in the next couple of weeks.
whenever
I think we have-
temperature,
I think you gotta
whatever.
do it now.
Yes, we need it done now.
How much money we got?
Oh, the street fund is like never a good, I mean, the street fund is always down because it never generates any income.
We got 96,000 in the street fund according to this.
96,000, yeah.
Oh.
Plus, we got Prairie Dog money again this year for $74,000, so.
No, 60.
60?
And we got less than we got before, but it was in the ballpark.
We have that money right now.
Yeah,
so we can-
and, but I will say this, at that League of Cities thing, they thought we might get some next year, but that's it.
Okay, I'm gonna move that we move ahead with the street ceiling with the condition that we look into, getting somebody to do the potholes and the cutouts in the pavement. They just keep getting filled with gravel and they keep getting worse.
Could that product fill those in, like potholes and things
We
like
can
that?
get a cold patch, but it's not, it doesn't do anything.
I think the intention is when they pave out here this summer, we're going to do all the, where the trenches, the water leaks and stuff were done.
There's really getting to be a bad one in front of that house that you own. And every time I hit that, I always forget, because I'm coming up to the school stop sign.
Oh, the schoolhouse, yeah.
And that's a mean one. We need to get those fixed.
So like some of this,
The next one is up there by the railroad tracks where they put in the culvert. Going down from there, you can go all the way down Main and, you know, fill
Well,
in
the second
those.
there by the courthouse is really bad, that big dip, and it's all chunks out of
Yeah,
it now.
I would agree, Ron,
Yeah.
you know, Updalls can't do that, but we need to get a hold of.
I'm gonna move
Yeah.
forward to the condition that we grant this job to Aaron, but we need to look into getting those truck holes filled in. That one in front of International Building has been there too damn long. And the one farther down from that in front of Jamie lives there?
It's by Opie's Body Shop.
right by the body
Okay,
shop
yeah,
there.
that one. Those need to be taken care of,
Jeff,
they can't be left that way.
What are the conditions on that what is it, Mega Mix or?
Yeah, the Omega Mix.
Omega Mix, what is the temperature and whatever you use that stuff?
I can put that on and as soon as it gets warm out. As
But first
long as the
of
sun
all,
shines on it, it
chop
warms it up
cleaned
enough to
out
soften it.
and prepped.
But one bag only does like not even a square foot.
Well,
It's gonna take a pallet of bags to do them holes.
yeah, what I'm wondering is since these guys are crack sealing, should we ask them if they might be interested in, if we get a pallet of the mix in, if they would be willing to patch the holes too?
I was gonna suggest something like that. I mean, I don't know exactly where and what and how or whatever, but we'd be willing to work with Jeff, because for Jeff to run around and do that stuff alone, that's not a one-man job. I would never send one of my crew up to do something like that.
It has to be done, it has to be cleaned out, chopped out, prepped along the edges, and then put in with a plate compactor.
Right.
That's if you're doing
And-
hot
and
mix,
we've
not
done-
the stuff that Jeff gets.
Cold mix you wanna pack as well.
Cold
We've
mix
done a
you
little
gotta
cold
pack.
mix and we can do cold mix if you want, and if Jeff wants to help or us help him, whatever, it's our city too.
Let's
We're-
get that done.
Do you wanna do cold mix though, Jeff? I know in the past you've said that you're not a big fan of that.
All the other ones we fixed with hot mix, and I've been working with the county. We're just waiting to see when they bid 52 out. They haven't bid that project out, and once they do, they'll have a hot mix plant around here. And then that's like we did the last time, so we just dug it out,
When that will be.
and they shot some oil on it, and then threw the hot mix on it, and then they packed it. Whichever you do, you're gonna have to throw some oil down on there to make it stick a little bit. And the other suggestion was that we go down to Jamestown and pick up cold mix and bring it back and dump it in those holes, but you still gotta have a packer and stuff to pack it in once you get it in there.
And
Will this oil you use, will that work? Does that work to seal down?
So,
That's,
for small ones like whatever, Cotico and Harvey, for example, they got a lot of alligator and stuff like that. So we picked the bad spots. Like, you know, if you got a spot like this, yeah, we can work with that. Put a bunch of that down and throw some chips in it type thing. I mean, perfect, no, but none of this is perfect. But for us, like to do somebody's driveway,
No,
it's the wrong product. We have to go back to that old product.
the county has got a Durapatch, which throws out oil and rock at the same time. And they have done a few of the places in town that's getting alligator. They've done that for me in the past.
And if they'd be willing, that would be great. but
let's get it done, because like I said, we got this reunion and everything else coming up. Let's get this stuff done. It's gone too long without being done.
I don't know if that would get done before the reunion though, because that kind of stuff is more later in the summer, isn't it?
Well, it all varies.
Unless you use the pallet stuff in the little bags, you could do that now, but getting hot mix or doing that that needs to be warm in the summer so it bonds.
Yeah.
Well,
That-
okay.
That trench, I,
Figure out how much cubic you need, right?
The stuff that Jeff uses in those bags, if it probably were to get a couple pallets, that would probably be about 10 grand.
Is it that high? I know it's not cheap. We bought.
Is it like $50 a bag?
I think it was
I'm
30
not
or
even
something,
sure right now.
30 or 40. I think it was, because we bought a bunch last year, and
Crazy
I mean,
expensive.
I like the idea if you can find a hot, but Ron, just for example, one of those like by the body shop or that other one you're talking about, Brad's,
Yeah.
that would take like half or 3/4 pallet, or just one of them, wouldn't it?
probably.
Thinking-
Well, the one by the body shop's gonna take a pallet.
If it was cleaned out, dug out the way it should be, packed and brought up to grade.
Yeah.
Right, but you gotta have like, what, I don't even, 4 inches maybe?
Yeah.
You'd use the whole pallet, you'd use thousands of
Oh,
dollars
yeah.
of coal.
You're not even supposed to use that on holes that are that deep, it's not meant for that. This is a quick patch to fill in a pothole, it's not meant to fix
Right.
a road
I
that,
think the smaller, I mean, I agree with Ron, these holes need to get fixed. You know, some of these smaller holes, we could get the cold mix out there, but
Yeah.
these bigger ones, we need to find the hot mix and talk to whoever county to get that done this summer.
there's 4 places right now that need it.
Yeah.
That's good enough.
Yeah.
As far as my original motion, I move that we go with the estimate from Aaron and get that done.
I'll second
Okay, we have a motion on the table, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion
Sweet.
carried.
We got green light whenever permits, as soon as we can.
Yes, so,
Okay, I mean, I think they got a few towns and stuff to do or whatever, but hopefully in the next week or two.
$100.
Yeah.
Well, you can see the water, you go around town, like where some of these cracks are, it's wet, you know, cause frost or whatever, stuff's pushing out.
Yeah.
Almost froze you
The
around.
scary part about those spots when they're getting wet, the reason they're wet is the street is, when you drive over it, it's moving and it's squeezing the water up and the ground
Yeah, it's
underneath
coming
is
up.
squishing.
And maybe it's not totally, but it could be water that's run off the street down under and it's saturated
it's
down there.
coming.
And there's basically no way to get that moisture from under a concrete slab or whatever, so that's why it's more important to close it up.
Yeah.
Anyways, thank you guys.
Don't do it while it's snowing.
Try not to.
Thanks, Aaron.
See ya.
Okay, do we have any public comments regarding any issues?
You might as well get your name in the paper and.
Yeah.
That's you, Zach.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm happy to be back. DC was interesting, to say the least, but it's not Fessenden. And catch up with us. Anyway, I'll be talking to you today. Jeff is very helpful because one of the, the meter had cracked underneath, but other than that, well, because of the cold, so fixed that. I was doing some plumbing with Brennan, and it's all squared away. Yeah, I'm very happy. It's nice to be a change. Getting up here was quite the a feat, going through the tornadoes in Paducah. I was in that too, so I got a few war stories. But
Did you shut the heat off or did it quit?
no, well, the system there is down there underneath. Gets really cold. The rest of the house is on the MISA system, so it's computerized. You can monitor kind of the temperature, but you can't heat an old house like that. So a lot of the rooms, are kept around 50 to 60, and the bill, I mean, it's reasonable. But down there, some of the old copper pipes had to be replaced. Everything else has been replaced, in terms of that with the I think it's the PEX, right? But there were still some. We actually found old pipes that might have gone to a well when the house was first originally built. So that house has tons of history that they changed, in the 20s and 30s.
What type of heating do you have, propane or?
No, it's electric and then, well, there's fireplace also, but it's electric and then mini splits. But mini splits, when it goes down to minus, that's not gonna do much, but,
No.
Nobody's freezing yet.
It's hard to leave a house in the winter here.
Right.
I
Well, the thing is
many
also
times.
the good thing was before I left, I had the valve shut off, so no water was, there was no flooding and, it's the message. But first winter's always a little growing pains.
And if you can get someone to stop in and check once in a while,
Right.
that's a good thing.
Well, yeah, John can, just to make sure that things were, again, that downstairs, I know Ottertail suggested putting some insulation down there, again, you can always keep adding to that, but
Yeah.
I'll tell you, originally, it was oil electric, and that was what burst originally with the radiators, so all the radiators have been taken out, and I think it's better in that regard, so. Yeah, other than that, things are good, just
Well,
catching.
How was your house after that Florida hurricane?
Well, there wasn't too much, I mean, the big problem in Florida is you gotta deal with termite season. That's a whole different, that's one thing great about North Dakota, there are no termites left alive here, so.
Yeah.
With us, iguanas, termites, and flooding, a lot of those zones because the water's, so. But you get used to it, I mean, I've been through,
So you didn't have damage from the.
there was some roof damage, but I mean, I'm used to dealing with that, I fixed it up, that was nothing too big. Yeah, the weird thing was coming, then I was, in DC for about a month and so that was, that place is a whole nother month, in a good way or a bad way, so, yeah. But now you get used to it, I mean, hurricanes, I don't miss hurricanes. And most people evacuate, I never evacuate during hurricanes, so that's a whole nother,
Well, you're one of them.
Yeah, one of those, yes, the few in the press, they might as well, ride it through, so, I like a close shave, so. That's good. Yeah,
Well,
but anyway, happy to be back.
Glad to have you back,
Thank you.
and glad that you guys come to the meetings.
Yeah, no, that's right, I'd like to know how I can help the community, what's going on, so.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
Wish more people would, yeah. Okay.
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you
Residential
all.
contacts who can help us with our.
Well,
Some scotch.
maybe.
Yeah.